Hi, and welcome back to JDLC, Judith Daniel Life Coaching Podcast, where we give tips, advice, perspective, inspiration, and motivation to start your journey. Today we are on episode 9, and we are going to get right down to the meat of things. We are talking about enhancing communication skills. Yes, everyone can talk. You can talk in different languages. You can talk with your hands. You can talk with your eyes. But how do we do it effectively so that the other person understands what you're saying and you can understand what you want to get across and do that? So, communicate clearly, live powerfully. Okay? So, strong communication is more than just talking. It's how you connect, influence, and express your truth. When you can speak with clarity and listen with intention, your confidence naturally rises. You stop second-guessing yourself. You become more persuasive, more relatable, and more respected. Great communicators don't just convey words, they create impact. Enhancing your communication skills boosts your mindset because it removes the fear of misunderstanding and empowers you to be seen, heard, and understood in every area of your life. Especially when there's someone else and you're trying to get your point across. How irritating is it when you're speaking and you're saying stuff to somebody and they just do not get it? And you're like, but I'm speaking, you speak the same language as me. I know you understand what I'm saying. Why are you saying you don't? It's a little irritating, but they can actually not understand what you're trying to say, and then they can start assuming and then get it wrong. So, know your message before you speak. Clarity starts with intention. Ask yourself, what do I really want to say? Being clear in your mind leads to confident delivery, right? So, what do I really want to say? So, a scenario. We're outside. The concept of the words is, dang, this grass is overgrown. We need to do something about it, right? You're standing there with someone else and it comes out as, this grass is crazy. Now, in urban terms, we know that means, it's overgrown and something should be done about it, right? But you can't always use layman terms, which is like an culturally understood variation of what you're trying to say. You have to actually say what you're saying, in the great words of Kiki. And she says, say what you saying, girl. I love that. Okay, that's neither here nor there. But clarity starts with your intention. So when you want to say, this grass is overgrown and we need to do something about it, just say that. Depending on if it's your partner, let's say you're in a more social, informal, surroundings, right? You're with your friends. Yes, say the things that you guys understand, the way that you enjoy to talk, the way that feels comfortable to you. But when you go into an employment situation where you're making your money, where they're expecting something of you for you to be a certain kind of way to project the notion of their products, service, or what have you, there's a certain kind of language that you have to have. Some may call it code switching, right? We saw that with the beautiful Mario Lopez when he was around his family in the social gathering session and his beautiful tongue came out, right? But when we see him doing the interviews and on TV in a more professional manner, he speaks the language of those people. So it's like, when in Rome, be able to do what needs to be done. And don't feel it bad about it. Just know that you're speaking multiple languages. It may all be in English, but it's still different languages depending on the setting you're in. And sometimes we discredit, or, where I'm from, we talk down to people like, look at her, trying to talk all proper. It kind of comes out like that, right? So what? I speak the language of my job. I also speak the language of my household. And they both may be in English, but they both may be on two different type of dialects, right? And that's okay. Be multifaceted with how you express yourself. Be able to speak with your eyes if you're in a crowded room and somebody is way over there and you still need to say something, but you know they're not going to hear your voice. It's okay to be multifaceted. You don't have to speak the same way everywhere. You speak that way depending on who you're around and what it's for, right? And that's okay. The only thing you should be worried about when it comes to something like that is, are your morals being compromised? Do you feel bad because something in you is saying no, 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 but you went ahead with it anyway? That's the only time. But it's okay to speak in different dialects. It's okay to have a language for your job, a language for when you're around the kids, a language for when you with your people, a language for when you playing spades, right? It's okay. That's when you really let your hair down. Well, I'm not going to go into it because we, you know what I'm saying. So, next one, practice active listening. Great communication starts with great listening, right? So pay full attention. Reflect back what you hear. So, respond and don't interrupt. Let's throw that out there too. So you listen to hear and take it in and process it. You don't listen just for them to hurry up because you know you're about to say something else anyway. It don't matter what come out of their mouth because that's irrelevant. Then that conversation doesn't need to happen. You know what I mean? But practice active listening, and you could do that at any time. You can do it with yourself if you're watching something on TV. Practice actively listening to what is being said, and then pause it. Take it in for a few seconds, and then think of, if they were talking to me, how would I respond in that same tone, in that same manner, on that same level of speaking. And then you practice it. Me being an actress, there's a lot of character development, right? And in different situations or different things, platforms, situations, scenarios, parts of the U.S., depending on what that character does, where they come from, all the things that break down into the character building. It's like language is a big part. Because if you're shooting a film, you're not on location, meaning you might be in a studio or a sound stage or whatever it calls for at that time, but you're supposed to be acting like as if you're from the Bronx, right? Now, I think myself that I have a very neutral speech. Like, it doesn't come off very heavy in anything. So it's not very heavy in New York, DC, DMV. It's not very heavy in, the southern regions. It's not very heavy in California-ish, language-ish tone and laid-backedness. You know what I mean? Even though I've been to all those places, it's not that. It's just neutral. Some may say I do have an accent, but to myself, I think it's very just, I heard people tell me all my life it's very proper. I hope so. That would be darn good. But it's like, if I were trying to project someone else, I would have to pull from somewhere else to get the type of dialogue that I wanted to have for that moment. So if I don't know, I haven't done it in a while. Let's say I'm trying to be European. I am most definitely American, right? I don't got a crumpet bone in my body. Hold on, my eye is itching. I don't know what it sounds like, but so I'm sitting there. Oh, because my agent, she's in Las Vegas, right? And she sent me over something, and she was like, hey, we're having this thing going on, and I want you to audition for it, and I need you to give me a European language, right? And I need you to, it's a middle-aged woman, it's not a young, for this thing that we're doing. And she gave me, the slides, right? Or the sides, excuse me. And to go over and look into it, and okay. So I go and I practice it, and I'm like, oh, I don't like that tonality. Something about that ain't right. I'm not, doing the words. And then I come up with, I'm no Idris Elba, right? But I come up with my variation in order to pull off what she is looking for, right? And it takes practice. And it takes looking into. It takes going to see, how do they really do it? What words are they saying? Let me play something and get it in my ear and then try to mimic it. And then let me watch something, act as if they are, talking to me. And then I pause it. And okay, now I'm going to speak back as if I was speaking to them, and then see if I sound like what they sound like. For an actor and actress, having a tape recorder is very, a handy tool to have. And sometimes when you're learning lines. So it just depends on what your mode of getting it together is, right? And there can be a whole lot. So at the end of the whole thing, after I've done listen to how they're speaking, what they're talking about, what the proper response would be. Are they being funny? Are they being serious? Did something extreme just happen? Are they sad? Going through all the different things. Then I can come up with the language on how I'm going to talk back. But it takes active listening to know how to properly respond. Right? Because you don't want, hey, my dog just jumped out the car while we were driving. I don't know what happened. He must have got spooked, and then he got hit by another car, and now he's not with us anymore. I don't respond like, oh, cheer up, mate. You know what I mean? I have to actually be listening, like, oh, I'm so sorry for your loss. Well, I don't understand. Like, what happened? Why would such a thing? I mean, were you going too fast? Was it a spider? Sometimes there could be things, and what did you ever find out what it was? Oh my goodness, my heart is broken for you. I don't understand it, but that is like, when they say like a freak accident, Good grief. You want to be on the same level with them. So it's the same thing. If you're at home and you're talking with someone, and I don't know why that went through a whole lot of changes. That was not European for me. I would not have gotten the role. I am highly disappointed at trying to pull that out my memory. So, be aware of what is being said, right? Practice active listening. Respond in the same formality as what you're receiving. And if someone else is taking it serious, it's polite for you to also take it as serious and to not disregard them. And along with that, you use confident body language, your eyes contact, like your posture and the tone that you speak, the volume before your words do. Let me say that again. Your tone speaks volumes before your words do. So if someone's coming to me, hey, I have a problem, Coach Jay. I just tried to do this right, and I know this was a homework assignment you gave me, and I was really trying to do this, really, like, and I'm cutting them off. I'm like, all right, what you trying to say? Like, what? Say it, God. Like, what? If I come off like that, who's going to want to speak anything else after that, right? There is a proper way to interject yourself into a moment and get that conversation under control. So if they're there, they're kind of stuttering, they're feeling bad, but they don't know all the actual words. They're like, wait, slow down. So what I'm hearing you say is that there was an issue with the homework because you couldn't get the right understanding or the words to get it out. And then they could say yes, or they could say no, that's not what I'm saying. And then you move on from there. But slowing everything down, showing that you're actively listening, having eye contact, your posture being inviting, and also intrigued, like you're leaning a little bit forward when you're talking to them because you want them to know, hey, I'm right here with you. We are having this conversation. I am fully invested at this moment. And then the tone, you're patient, you're kind, you're gentle, you're not being harsh like the first example. And you're saying, hey, however long it takes for this to get out, we can get it out. But let me make sure that I'm staying on track with you. Right? It shows them that you're present. So always be aware of your tone and the timing. Because you don't want somebody's coming in with the last part of their sentence and you just cut them off and just start talking and saying your own thing and it doesn't match anything like what they were talking about. You want there to be an understanding because how you say something matters as much as what you say. Adjust your tone. And I keep going back to that because that is you can say stuff in 7 different ways, right? But it's what is appropriate for this moment. Are we asking a question? Are we making a statement? Let your tone reflect what it is you're really trying to do. And it's okay to be calm and to hesitate and to actually get it together in your mind before you let it out of your mouth. Adjust it to match the situation. Calm, assertive, or compassionate, or whatever it might be. Take your time. Sometimes in arguments, people think they have to rush and get it out. Because if I don't rush and I don't say it like this, then you're not going to hear me and I'm going to be upset. When they could say that same exact thing with a calm voice, which would give the other person the option to be receptive and to actually hear what they're saying. Because you can still get out everything you need to say, and the other person can take it a little bit better than having someone talk at them and yell at them and be loud toward them. You can sit and you can talk with peace, even if you're highly upset. And if you're highly upset, you're going to go back to another episode that we talked about where you're going to excuse yourself and have emotional intelligence enough to say, I'm not ready to have this conversation yet. I thought I was. I walked over here, but the more I'm ready to talk, the more I'm ready to explode. So I apologize that I called you over here, but let me take another minute. And you know what that other person is going to do? They are going to respect the mess out of that. They are going to love that you know you enough to know that I might come off disrespectful, or it might come out in a way that there is no coming back from it. And you don't want that to happen, so you want to take care of what you're saying. Who wouldn't like that? And who wouldn't be ready to hear what you have to say, knowing that the approach that you're taking is one of care? And then avoid filler words, like, and it kind of weakens the message. And also the same thing with over-explaining. Speak clearly and trust that your point stands on its own. Now, there can be a preface to what you're about to say. Like, remember the other day when we were out at the car wash, right? And this person did ABC. Okay, so now I want to say to that, and then you go into whatever it is. That might not have been the best example, but it's being right to the point. It is having a preface to it so that you can understand why they're saying what they're saying and what situation they're trying to associate it with, but speak clearly. Say what you're saying. And say it in a way that people can tell that you've thought about it, and here's the meat of it. And that is not coming off rude as if you're just saying stuff just to be saying it, or cutting them off just to be cutting them off. You give people time. It's okay. It's okay for it not to be a microwave conversation where it's just real fast, real fast, real fast. Okay? And then ask questions to create engagement. Good communication doesn't dominate, they invite. Asking thoughtful questions, it shows interest and it keeps the conversation flowing naturally, right? And then going back to, hey, I think this is what I'm hearing you say, right? Or if it needs a different tone, hey, I think this is what I'm hearing you say. And then you repeat what you think they're saying. Right? There's so many different tonations and ways to say something. Even the emphasis that you put on whichever word, right? So you have to be mindful of that. And then master the art of pausing. Silence is not awkward, it's powerful. A well-timed pause adds emphasis, gives space for reflection, and boosts your credibility. Why? Because you're not in a hurry just to get the information out. You have thought about this, you understand what you're saying, and this is what you think should be presented. And tailor the message to your audience. Speak in ways that resonates with who you're talking to. Adapt your tone, language, and examples based on their perspective. So if you're an adult speaking with a child, you would use more examples that they would be aware of, right? Because their point of reference is not the same as your point of reference. Or if you're a manager speaking to an employee, speak on their level. Not on the level in which you get cussed out every day from your higher ups, right? You speak on a level that says, hey, we are in this together. I heard some stuff and I'm going to relay to you as best I can what they were trying to get us to do and complete. And you go in with that. So they know that, hey, I'm not coming down on you. I want to know what I can do to help. So this is what I heard. This is what they said needs to be done. What do you think is causing this not to be done? And then you actually listen to what they have to say, and then you make your plan. You don't go in with a plan already made and say, hey, this is what I heard, this is what we're going to do, and da-da-da-da. What do you have to say for that or about that? Or, something harsh. You don't have to do that. You can just be like, okay, so, because when you build community with your team, being a manager and with your employees, knowing that they're the ones getting most of the grunt work, right? You're just supervising the grunt work. And you know how to jump in when they need help, right? That be knowledgeable. Get the information. And if you get on a new team, you get a new job as a manager, you have no idea what they're doing or talking about, but you're trying to learn it. Take some time. Shadow. That's not just for new employees that are coming to work under you. That if you are that new employee, even though you happen to be the manager, you shadow. You get their perspective. You see what they have to deal with. And then that way, when you're talking to them, you can better understand, or they know that you know what you're talking about because you've seen it. You were firsthand on it. But when you're talking to them from a place of, I've never done what you're doing, but this is what they say you have to do, so you have to do it or you're going to be in trouble. That it doesn't work like that for a successful team. You got to be willing to pull up your sleeves and actually get in there and do the work that it takes. So then you know what you're talking about. And then when they say, but I think we could do this better because blah, 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 you can say, I see that. Why don't we try it for today? What do you think? Just let's try it out and see. And then tomorrow we'll talk about it again and see if it did work, it didn't work. What did you like about it? Because I'm thinking this, this, and this. But if you think that might work, let's try it. And then they could look out for what you're saying. They would be more apt to say, hey, you know what, you were right. Or, you know what, when you said that, I rethought about it, so I did it this way instead. And then it worked out. There's so many ways that can come when there's that trust, right? Because you've made it known. You've used a tone that's inviting. Your body language says, I'm here with you. We're in this together. And I'm not standing over you and condemning you. You know what I mean? And you're listening to them. Right? So it all plays a part in proper communication. And stay emotionally aware and respect boundaries. Emotional intelligence in conversations prevents defensiveness and encourages trust. So pay attention to the emotional cues, yours and theirs. So if you're saying something, they start looking like, what the f*** is going on here? Why, what? What does that even have to do with what I'm talking about? Because you can see the squinting of the eyes. You can see the rubbing of the hands or the back of the neck, which is a high one. I have no idea what you're talking about. Or you can see them starting to drift off and look away and not, and you can revamp it. And be like, okay, that sounds probably boring or something. Tell me, what do you think? And then get other people's input. And be respectful. And like, hey, I must be talking too much. What do you need to say? Or what do you think? Where did I miss you? Where did things go wrong? And then actually listen again to what they're saying. Because people like to say that and then they walk off. Well, oh, you must not understand what I'm saying. So we're done with this conversation, and walk off. How is that going to help the next time that you're going to need to talk to that person? Because you are going to need to talk to that person again. So you don't just base how you're coming across for that particular situation, but you're building a relationship and trust. So that when you say something, they'll know, hey, I'm just going to do it. It might blow up in both our faces, but I respect them, and I know they have like a certain point of view that they're coming from, and they want us to try, and then we'll get to talk about it. And then we'll get to see how it worked or didn't work. Why? Because you're putting out the open door of seeking feedback. Right? And this is your team. You understand it's a team. And the best thing to do in any of this is like what we said in the beginning, to keep practicing. Communication is a lifelong skill. And you're going to come across new people every day. You might come across people that don't speak the same language as you. Right? And you still want to be able to communicate those things that they may be asking the question to, but they can't get it out in a way that you understand. Maybe you're the one, it's your country. They're coming as a visitor, or what do they call that? A tourist. And so they're like, wow, it's pretty cool. But they're like, now I have to go to the bathroom, or where are we going to go eat? Or I lost my something and I can't find it. Look at the body language of what they're trying to say. Watch where they're pointing to. Find a middle ground on that communication, and keep your tone in a way that they know that you're safe, right? Because even if they don't know your words, they can understand a smile, right? They can understand a soft voice, a helpful voice, a helpful hand. And then when you go the extra mile and you communicate, or you pull out your phone and you go to Google Translate and you say, because I really want to help you, or I really have the time for you, you're making us all look great. Right? You're not just speaking for yourself, because maybe that person's going to be here for 3 to 5 days. And your communication, makes their heart at ease, where they're not afraid. And now they're more open in communicating and trying to understand, and now they know to pull out their phone and to do the translation thing. So even if we're both Americans, the way you come off and communicate helps someone to have positive takeaways when you're done with that communication. So you're not just for that moment, but now when they go back, they'll be like, oh, you know what? I want to try how they did it. And I want to talk like that. And I want to, be calm and be patient. It's just like how a child learns. How you talk to them is how they're going to go back and try to talk to others, because they're like, oh, I like that. That worked for me. Maybe it'll work for someone else. So if they see you talking to the dog, oh, they're such a good doggy, when they go and they talk to the dog, they're, oh, you're such a good doggy. You see what I'm saying? So it's not just for that moment, but that might be a lifelong, way that we can help someone else to pay it forward and take it with them. So, good communication. It takes a lot. Mostly it takes practice, and you actually being involved in that communication you're having, or having the emotional intelligence to say, hey, I can't have this conversation right now. But you know the difference, and you know what that is. So, I hope this little bit of information, this tiny little segment, helps you with giving you a few pointers on proper communication and how to really do it. I know a lot of people, they just kind of think everybody's supposed to know this stuff, and we don't know the stuff all the time. So that's what my point is in giving you this information. If you have any questions or you want to go deeper, I'm here for that. Let me know, and we can definitely do more. Check out the layered affirmations, or all of the things that I have going on, at judithdaniellc.com. And when you're ready, you can put together your own layered affirmation to help you get into the mindset that you really want to have and the embodiment that you really want to take on to be the person that you're dreaming of being. You understand? And you can be whoever you want to be. There are no limits. You can do whatever you want to do. Everything takes knowledge and it takes practice. Hopefully, I'm giving you some knowledge that you can practice with. All right. Hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, deuces.